I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Ministerial Formation Network. This is a joint program of the UUMA and the UUA, and it is completely separate from the ministerial credentialing process. And though David Petit participates in supporting this, we are very clear that the lines between the two programs are quite distinct, and the Ministerial Formation Network will have no role in evaluating those who participate. That will remain wholly within the confines of the Ministerial Credentialing Director's office. So that's one really important piece of this network. It has three elements. We can use the numbers 3, 2, 1 to remember what they are. There's discernment support, and our vision is that the discernment support will be offered in 3 discernment circles, which will happen over the course of a year. In the pilot program, they'll begin in December, but when we unroll this program continentally in the fall, they will be spread out over the course of the year. In addition, there will be 2 continuing education or training events, and our intention is to try to offer learning opportunities that most people do not get in seminary, or if they do not get in a robust fashion. And we have had a variety of groups around the country that have been working with aspirants and candidates in programs that they have largely called in-care programs, and have been developing these kinds of continuing education and training modules over the years that they've been delivering their program to the people in their areas, and have been and will continue to be collaborating with them around what they have found really useful and effective, and what has been well received by the participants in their programs. And the last part of the Ministerial Formation Network is collegiality, and our vision is that the collegiality will be met in multiple ways, of course, through the discernment groups and through opportunities for informal connection between group participants, but also formally in one collegial gathering. The ways in which those gatherings will happen will vary from group to group. For the purposes of our pilot program, the gatherings that are in chapters will likely be connected to chapter-based retreats, and those that are with identity groups or affinity groups will likely be connected with retreats that are already planned for those gatherings. The continuing education and training component will be offered by ministers, and they will include both the chapter liaisons as well as potentially people who are involved in the Ministerial Formation Network coordinating team. The meeting format for the discernment groups is going to vary from group to group. Some of the groups that are in areas which are densely populated may be able to meet in person. Other groups, though, will need to use some kind of technology like Zoom in order to meet for the discernment circles. However, our intention is to offer an in-person gathering for each group, no matter where they're located, at least once each year. We're in the process right now of trying to finalize the leadership for the Ministerial Formation Network for the pilot year, and we're recruiting ministers for 2 roles. One role is the chapter liaison role, and the other is a discernment group leader role. The chapter liaison will be someone who works with aspirants and candidates to be sure that they have an opportunity to be in a group if they would like to be in a group, and who helps us deliver the continuing education or training modules, and helps to plan and to lead the collegial gathering. When we implement this program continentally, our vision of this position is that it will be an ongoing position as people attain aspirant status. This person will welcome them into the chapter, help orient them to the resources of the Ministerial Formation Network, and provide a hospitable connection point for everybody pursuing the ministry. The discernment group leader will be very much focused on planning for and leading the 3 discernment circles that happen over the course of the year, and will be available to speak with participants individually if they find they need resources or recommendations for further support for their formation process. And in addition, we hope that the discernment group leader will be able to attend and participate in the collegial gathering. We're in the process of developing training for our leaders with Larry Piers, who works with the Center for Pastoral Excellence and has done a lot of work with people of varied denominations around the ministerial formation process. And so we're looking forward to having really robust training for ministers within the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association to help equip us to support aspirants and candidates and really recognize this as an investment in the future of our faith. There has been a great group of people that have worked on the design. Deborah mentioned a gathering that happened a year ago in Boston in which stakeholders in Unitarian Universalism came together to help imagine this new network. And then there was a design team that came out of that, and a variety of leaders have had input into what design will best meet the needs of aspirants and candidates, including aspirants and candidates themselves. However, with any design, we know that we will learn a lot by its implementation. So a key part of this pilot experience is to ask leaders and participants to help us assess the program and make it stronger. And we're going to do that both at the end as well as during the course of the pilot program. So that's a key commitment that people are making when they agree to be participants or leaders in the pilot program, is to help us evaluate it so that we can make it even stronger when we implement it continentally. The funding for this network is being provided by a variety of sources. The Panel on Theological Education and the St. Lawrence Foundation, as well as the UUMA budget, are significant contributors to the Ministerial Formation Network. We are supplementing that by participant fees, and this has been a point of a lot of discussion among aspirants and candidates, of course, concerned about the cost of the process of preparing for the ministry and the additional fees that can be encountered in many places. We wanted to keep this fee as minimal as possible, but also recognize that we will need to charge something in order to ensure that we can make it possible for each participant to attend the collegial gathering. And this is a little bit of a different way of doing things. Often our gatherings require that people pay the transportation to events themselves. We would like to pay for the transportation to the collegial gathering as well as the lodging at that gathering so that it is equally accessible to people. Some folks live in dense areas where they can take a subway or easily drive or carpool to their collegial gathering without incurring much expense at all. But there are a whole lot of people who will need to take a bus or a plane or a train to get to their collegial gathering, and we don't want it to be prohibitive for those folks. So by charging this fee, we're really hoping to equalize the travel expenses and make it accessible to everybody. And one of the things that we'll be testing in the pilot is this the right fee? Is this enough of a fee to charge to make this doable for everybody? So this is something that we'll continue to evaluate and may well change when we implement this continentally next year. So right now, we're in the process of finalizing leader selection. The deadline for participants is October 31st. And I'm told, I'm new in my role with the UUMA, and I'm told that 40% of applications come in on the day of the deadline. So we'll see if that is in fact the case with the participants. Right now, there is room in all of the pilot groups still. So my plan is after the deadline passes, if there's still a room available, we'd like to make this opportunity accessible to interns as well. And this has been another point that has been a source of concern and confusion for some people, why interns were excluded. So I'd just like to speak to that briefly. When the program is implemented in the fall continentally, of course interns will be included, and we understand that that's very important. we knew that our capacity for the pilot was limited because we have to have enough people in order to test the model, but not too many people to make testing unwieldy. And we weren't sure how many folks would be interested in participating at this time. So we thought for the first round of applicants that we would open it to those who have the least support. And while the support from an internship committee and an internship supervisor is evaluative and therefore has limitations in the ways in which those interns can get support, we also recognize that it is at least some support that is available to those folks, and others who are newly in the process or who are not in internships may not have access to anyone who's directly supporting them other than perhaps an advisor at their seminary or their home congregation minister. So we wanted to try to open this first to those without formal support, and if we have room available in the pilot, we will gladly welcome interns. And this situation of excluding interns, I just want to underscore, is temporary and will not be the case when we implement this next year. So by early next week, I intend to communicate which groups still have room for interns to apply. We'll finalize the group enrollment early in November, and then groups will actually begin meeting in December. That's the plan for the pilot period. Meanwhile, in the spring, we'll start recruiting for participants for the groups that will begin in September of 2017. So those who don't have an opportunity to participate in the pilot this year will most certainly be eligible to participate in the fall if they still remain in aspirant or candidate status. So that's just a brief presentation. And the main reason I wanted to have this opportunity to gather today is to hear what questions you have, what concerns you have. So that's what I'd like to do with the rest of our time, is to invite you to let me know what you're hearing, what you're thinking, what you're wondering. And between us, David and Deborah and I will do our best to answer your questions.
Well, this looks like someone joined us on the phone.
Welcome. Can you tell us who you are there on the phone? Hello? Maybe not. So Dana or Julie, do you have any questions? Are there things you've been hearing that you'd like to communicate?
Can you hear me okay? First off, I want to say thank you. I am sure that there's been so much work and sacrifice that has gone into creating this for us, and as someone in the process, I am incredibly grateful to have people who support us, who are creating resources like this for us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to the different pilot groups. I was looking them over, and I don't know actually if I would fit into one since I'm in Connecticut. So I'm interested in that, and if maybe I could tag into Mass Bay or something like that.
Yes, there are 3 chapter-based pilot groups: Canada, Mass Bay, and Southeast, and then 3 identity or affinity-based groups: a group for people of color, a group for geographically isolated people, and a group for people who are trans, genderqueer, non-binary, or otherwise non-cisgender. So we recognize that that excludes a lot of people who would like to participate. And again, this is a matter of making the testing of the design not too unwieldy. However, Dana, there is one other person who lives in Connecticut who would like to participate in the Mass Bay group. And as long, that group will likely meet in person. It's one of the ones that will likely have their discernment groups in person. So as long as you're willing to travel to be a part of that, that's okay. You're welcome to apply for that group.
And Dana, are you aware that there's a program nominally that was initially part of an in-care program with Connect with Union in New York City?
Sorry, you cut out there a little bit.
Okay. There's another program that's connected with the Metro New York district that essentially tends to connect with the larger group of UU students around Union in New York City. So you're kind of, where you live, you're kind of halfway in between Boston and, yeah, so. The program in New York is an existing program. It's a little bit different than this one. I don't believe there have been folks who were connected with Yale or from Connecticut who've been part of it. It's been very much a kind of New York-centric sort of experience.
Thank you.
How about you, Julie? Have you heard concerns, or do you have any questions yourself?
I don't have any questions. Thank you. And right now, I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
So as I've been having conversations with folks around this, one of the queries that came up is when we're talking about doing professional development or some kind of education piece, is can we flush that out a little bit more? So there was some wondering about what sorts of things would be included in that.
David, would you mind sharing some of the programs that you know that the in-care groups have offered?
Sure. Also, Deborah, and anybody else for that matter, if you go to uua.org, there's a document that's called an in-care guide, which you're welcome to take a look at. At some point, Melissa, if you haven't taken a look at it, we should sort of try to bring it up to speed, because it was really developed out of the experience of the existing in-care programs before the Ministerial Formation Network really existed. So the kinds of things that I've seen have been often in retreats or opportunities for aspirants and candidates to get together with local colleagues. Conversation around the realities of congregational finance is a topic that people do not get in seminary. There have been folks that have been brought in to deal with learning the skills of conflict resolution that are valuable in a congregational setting, which some seminaries never touch. The whole process about, okay, so you're cleared to go into search for a congregation. What does that include? What does that entail? What are the realities that people who are imagining serving in the community face that people in a congregation don't? And how can they find support? It's kind of a whole range of things. There have been certainly, I've seen gatherings where 2 or 3 ministers pretty much say, we're going to take the next hour to ask us any question you want. Reality, the absolute reality of ministry in its most raw and uncensored form. So do not hold back on anything that's concerning you, bugging you, that you have a collegial commitment within a particular covenant of understanding where the ministers are going to be really honest about what their experience is. And I think people find those kinds of opportunities to be together really valuable because they're honest, they're genuine. You're not going to get people who are saying, oh, the ministry is the greatest thing in the whole world and it's the best thing I ever did. And they're going to talk about realities about relationships and all, the real stuff that we all deal with every day. So it can really be generated to some degree by the needs of the people whom are present. It really isn't that hard if you ask folks, what is it you really are the most interested in learning about? They'll tell you. And then it's a matter of finding the right resource people to bring them together and create a program around it. So those are just right off the top of my head.
Any other things that you've been hearing other people talk about or asking or wondering about we can try to answer? All right, well, if you speak to people who have questions or concerns, I'm going to figure out, there's a learning curve for me, figure out how to save this in a format that anybody can view, but I will get some help and figure out how to save this little conversation that we've had and make it available to others who may be interested. And then, of course, I'm happy to talk to people and answer their questions. So if you hear of anybody who you think has misinformation or who is confused or anxious about a certain piece of this, please tell them, don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and I will be very happy to have a conversation.
Melissa, can I add one more thing? I'm thinking more about Deborah's question. I think one of the goals of the Ministry Formation Network with the UUMA is, so there'll be various pilot groups around the country, ministerial chapters offering really excellent programming. And I know that I hope that we can figure out a way to creatively make sure that they get videoed and get stored in an archive. So if you can't attend because you've got a test or something to prepare for, and you heard it was this really great session involving 3 ministers talking about their experiences going in search, you'll be able to go and see it and view it yourself. So that's one of the things that I think hopefully over a period of time, a library will be able to be developed to be accessible to anyone who's really interested and also who is a member of the UUMA. Melissa, do you want to talk about where the UUMA is with conversations about the possibility of aspirants becoming members?
Yes, currently the UUMA requires that a person be in candidate status in order to be a member of the association, but there will be a proposal before us at our annual meeting at Ministry Days this coming year to invite aspirants into membership in the UUMA as well. And so we're looking forward to the leaders of the UUMA, the board have already discussed this, and we're looking forward to bringing this conversation to all of our colleagues in the UUMA so that we can invite aspirants into the collegial support and opportunities for learning that we offer even earlier in their process. So that will be happening this June.